Koutou. Welcome to our webinar on Collective Action for Communities Part 3. Let us start with karakia, and please feel free to join me. Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I waho, tu taua mai I roto. Kia tō ai, te mauri tu, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, humie, huie, tai kie. Let's start with some introductions, and the panel is happy. I will start with my pepiha. Ko Aotearoa te monga, ko Waikanai te awa, I tipu ake aho I Gateshead, England, ko Wayne Maxwell takutane no wararapa ai, ko Flynn Roa, ko Tara Oku Tamariki, ko Amajit Maxwell aho, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Now we have a wonderful panel of presenters this evening, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because I just won't be able to do it justice. So Chiquita and Mataroa, would you guys like to go first in terms of introductions?
Tēnā rā koutou, nā mihi atu ki a koe Amajit. Mō tō karakia, he korowai ki a tātou, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, nā rangatira mā. Ko Aotearoa o nā te parau, nā te whātua, me nā pui tonu ko Matiroa hau, ko Aote upoko whakarai o te tiri o Ruahine. It's a pleasure to join you all this evening, and I hope that the presentation that Chiquita and I are providing this evening will be eventful and informative. So, ngā mihi.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko Chiquita Henson tuku ingoa, ko Āraki te Maina, ko Rataia te Awa no Otatahia hau, ko Richard Taku Hotane, tuku rua aku tamariki, ko Ali Rawa ko Ash, Chief Executive of Think Kaora, and Mataroa's said that we're going to be very entertaining and exciting tonight, so I'm going to hand over to her and she's going to do it all shortly, but looking forward to our session.
Awesome. And Gary?
Kia ora, Amajit. He tangata o te tiriti aho, ko Pakeha toku iwi, ko Wallace Sutcliffe toku matua tupuna no Lancashire, ko Ellen Rimmer toku whaia tupuna, ko Bert Sutcliffe toku matua, ko Norma toku mama, ko Gary Sutcliffe toko ingoa, e noho ana aho ki Waitakere, ki Tāmaki Makaurau, e nāianei no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa, kia ora. My name is Gary Sutcliffe, I'm from Auckland, I'm married, I have 2 children and 5 granddaughters. Kia ora, Amajit.
You're a busy man, Gary. Oh, thank you for that. I'll keep my intro pretty short so we can really get to the cool stuff with Chiquita, Mataroa and Gary. Those of you who've been tuning into our webinars of late, you'll know that this is the 3rd in the series on collective action for communities, focusing on an initiative, Ora Connect. And I'm really excited about the detail around this project. I've seen a lot of, about it already, but it is just, yeah, it is inspiring. Just some reflections on part 1 and part 2. If you weren't able to tune into these are available on our Healthcare Home website, along with the slides that went along with it. In our first webinar, part 1, we covered Collective Impact 101 with some real international storytelling, but it was really based around, well, what is this methodology and how can it enable our locality mahi in terms of New Zealand? So we wanted to start off with that sort of, base framework. We were nicely challenged by our facilitators from the US, because they put us into breakout groups and really started to create that whānau or as best you can on Zoom. So it was a useful session. Part 2 was even more exciting because we had Dr. Andrew Miller share his learnings in terms of the kaupapa and the mahi within Northland, and really talked about the paradoxes around locality work that have been documented by 3 professors there, and also what the lessons learned were. And I'd definitely encourage you to check that presentation out, because I think what we really need to do going forward is not reinvent the wheel and learn from others. And Andrew will admit that, you know, there are definite learnings. So it was really refreshing to actually get the warts and all conversations going. And then we were very lucky to have Claudia Johns, our newest consumer, along with Fire Merle, sharing their wisdom around effective engagement. And I wanted to share one of the quotes that Claudia presented was, "I may not remember your words, but I will remember how you made me feel, the mode of our interaction." And I just thought, from my point of view, what was shared was, it just resonated, and the feedback that I've got from many others, it also really touched them too. And I think it's, again, worth a watch. And yeah, I just think there's gold nuggets within there. So that's all I'll say about the part 1 and 2. And we really just want to get into the presentations from Chiquita Matador, and then some reflections from Gary. So sit back, relax. Hopefully you've all got your cup of tea, and yeah, over to you guys. And actually, just one final thing, if you've got questions, we will have time for that at the end, but feel free to use the Q&A button to post your questions at any time, and then we'll field those a little later.
I want to move that one. Oh, now I'm there. We're there. Cool. Thank you. Kia ora again. So, ko Aotearoa. So Aotearoa and I are here this evening representing Think Hauora, Connecting Communities for Wellbeing in Te Tihi. So Think Hauora is the Mid-Central Primary Health Organisation, more commonly known as a PHO. In 2019, we developed a new strategy, and central to that strategy is taking a much broader view of health and recognising the connectivity between health and other aspects of people's lives. And then we work very much in partnership with Te Tihi. We truly believe that we are demonstrating Te Reo Waitangi in the way that it should work. And I'm going to hand to Matiroa, who's going to explain the beautiful history of Te Tihi.
Oh, well, tēnā koutou. So Te Tihi, as you can see on the screen, is an alliance of 9 iwi and Māori organisations. We cover the rohe that could be described as the mid-central district. So from the boundaries of Ikitahuna across to Tararua, up to the valley beyond Fielding, down into Palmerston North, and then down to Kuruwhenua to Pika Pika. So that's sort of the rohe that we work in, and obviously there are several iwi within that district who are part of Te Tihi. Te Tihi really came out of the whānau policy, which was from the task force report in 2010 under Te Puni Kōkiri. Was at the time that Tariana Turia was in the ministerial position, and the task force was led by Tā Mason Jury, who also lives in the rohe, so we're most fortunate to have that available to us. We had a very symbiotic relationship with what was then Central PHO, more latterly became Think Hauora. And over several years, we were kind of like a whakaruruhau, or a way of allowing Te Tihi to grow while being sheltered by the PHO at that time. And then in 2016, we established an entity, and in 2017, we became our own organisation and have maintained a very close and enduring relationship with Think Hauora, amongst others.
So our strategy is came about in 2019, and it's till 2025. In the strategy, we've really demonstrated our commitment to Te Reti o Waitangi, and our strategic aims are under the umbrella of weaving. I'm just going to show you a short video clip about our strategy. Pretty well. Yeah, I think we can get it going. Us doing that hasn't stopped me being able to hear it.
Mawhiti mai ko te rā, ka au Aotearoa. He rā, tēnei kua hura. Hia ke ai ko te rā, kia whakanui an. I tēnei rā ho, kua hura. E piti mai te rā, me o tini kara. Ka rewa mai ko koe, hei ariki, hei tipua. I ngā rā pauri, I reira koe oro ana. He rā ho tēnei, kua hura. Maene te kiri, mahue te riri, piti mai ko koe, kia ngā wari. We heru a kapua, kia murua I ngā hara. He rā ho tēnei, kua hura. Hinga ai te marama, kia rewa mai koe ki runga. He ata pō kua pahure, he rā ho tēnei, kua hura. E piti mai te rā, me o he rā. Ka rewa mai ko koe, hei ariki, hei tipua. I ngā rā pauri, I reira koe oro ana. He rā ho tēnei, kua hura. He rā ho tēnei, kua hura. He rā ho tēnei, kua hura.
I hope everyone could hear that. So what the weaving video was demonstrating was the words whānau ora, equity, access, value, innovation, networking and growth. And you saw a short little snippet of Ora Connect, but we're going to talk more about that shortly. So the Think Ora strategy underpins all our mahi alongside ka ao ka Aotearoa, and this is our Māori Health Strategic Framework. The two things I really want to draw your attention to on this one is that at the top is iwi, and for us it is about what are the aspirations of iwi, and then at the bottom it is about what is the aspirations of communities. And then amongst everything else is whānau ora essential to everything, with he korowai, oranga to the left and whakamoa over to the right, and a whole lot of other things. I really encourage people to go on to Think Ora website, or to Survey website, or the Mid-Central DHB website, because this is a joint strategy across our rohi, and it's a really easy read, but it's also pragmatic about how you can pick it up and actually turn it into some pragmatic action with your teams. Also underpinning the strategy is our whānau ora, is our outcome framework. So over on the left here, we've got the weaving, our ka Aotearoa, then our system level measures, quality domains and the healthcare home domains. But really importantly, what we're aspiring to achieve are the 7 sensational whānau ora outcomes alongside the quadrupling. And we're very careful about how we work with our 5 different communities, because Whenua is very different from Manawatu, Otaki, Palmerston, Northern Tarawera. So we've been very focused and that sort of locality approach about how we engage and work with our communities. But tonight we're really going to do more of a story about our collective impact and action, and this is in our western southern suburbs of Palmerston North with the postcode of 4412. Our Aotearoa suburb is about 30,000 people. It's made up of about 5 or 6 different suburbs, as you can see on the screen, and you'll see top right that predominantly a young population, high Māori and Pacifica, and quintile when we do more the deficit type language 4 and 5. And then on the bottom right hand side, we're using .loves data, and it's just an overlay of some of the social determinant data with Aotearoa. When we worked with this community, they were really keen that they didn't want a big flash building. We've been developing integrated family healthcare centres across Aotearoa with some amazing buildings. But this community was very much wanting health and social to connect up together much more and to develop a platform and different ways of people being able to access health and social services.
Probably just talking a little bit about our framework. So obviously you can see that whānau has been an essential influence in the way that we've approached the work within our communities, and really I suppose that's about placing whānau in the role of leading that work. So whānau led is the way that we see that work. Te Tihi is an organisation, we provide backbone functions to a lot of the iwi Māori providers, and also to a couple of collective impact initiatives that we have running in the rohe. So whānau obviously, as Chiquita's already said, we've got the 7 outcome areas. People may or may not be familiar with that. The Whānau Commissioning Agency is obviously a strong relationship that we have. They they're based in Auckland, but they have 13 lead partners across New Zealand, and Te Tihi is one of the lead partners in our district. Raukawa Whānau also are a part of that landscape. What really happened in the Aotearoa space, as Chiquita said, was that after engaging with the community and hearing the voice of what whānau were interested in, we also then looked at what were the areas that we wanted to give some focus to as we commenced the work around Aotearoa. So you can see the 3 outcome areas: pukinga rawa, economic wealth and security. So that really goes back to the data that Chiquita just talked about in relation to increasing household incomes, plus also being able to raise the whole wealth and security within that community. Hauoranga, healthy lifestyles. So I think it's quite interesting when you think about the word hauora. So hauora is really about well-being and about flourishing. And often in health, what we're talking about is actually illness and disease. So I think the whānau framework gives us the ability to focus on those things that are more upstream, and the ability for communities to define what that looks like. Te Aki Tai Ao, so that's about being stewards of our environment, and I know that these things, our wider environment and the impact of those things in our everyday lives are extremely important to the progress and the direction that we make over time. These things also, the community has talked about things like recycling, so decreasing the amount of rubbish that goes to landfill, being able to have spaces and places that people can learn about composting, can learn about permaculture, can actually develop marakai. So these are the things that underpin part of the work that we're doing. I understand that you were, a lot of people would have joined and watched the previous series where there was Paul and Dominique, who talked a lot about collective impact, and I realised that the first one was also been talking about some of the framework from collective impact, specifically taking the Stanford approach. So probably you can see on the left are the 5 areas that would have been described in the previous webinars, and we've been moving more towards over time the Tamarack Institute and developing this movement building being really the underpinning of that. So you can see that over time the Tamarack Institute has developed a more strategic approach, is what I would say, in stretching some of the aspirations that were first put together by the Stanford University.
So the Aura Connect is framed up within an alliance framework, and we have an alliance charter that underpins all the activity, and there are 14 partners currently that sit around the table. It is led by Danielle Harris, who is the chair, and she is the CEO of Whakapai Hauora, so it's fantastic to have this led by iwi, which I believe is really important. And you'll see the police are involved, Ministry of Education, with Central Community Pharmacy Group, and everyone else that you can see on the screen. And it's a really diverse group of people that come together.
I'm just going to add, I think we've utilised the term alliance partners because of the essence of what alliance partners means, and that people come to the table on equal terms, regardless of whether or not you're a large Crown entity or you're a small community group. That when you come to the table to participate in the collective impact approach, that it's not about the size or the budget or the resources that denotes the size of the chair that you have at the table, but actually you come to the table as equal parties. And so alliancing, the principles of alliancing actually give that good definition.
And our journey here, and apologies, I keep meaning to fix the screen, but there might be something telling me that I don't need to, but 2017 is 2028. It's supposed to say 18. So this is just the steps that we've done over the years. One of the key messages is that collective impact isn't something that you can do in 3 months, 6 months. It is the long game. And in Aotearoa at the moment with the health reforms, I'm getting a little bit worried that people are getting excited about collective impact and think, okay, we're going to do that with localities and we'll have that stitched up in 6 months' time and we'll be off done and dusted. So as you can see, we started in 2017, we're in 2021, and we still have a very, very long way to go. But the rigour of the methodology is really helping us, especially as we've gone from sort of the 2.0 part of collective impact to the 3.0 about building that movement of change. And no longer talking about backbone sort of organisations, even though that's language we do refer to, but it's that containers of change and about many people being involved in that, just not the backbone people. And this is how we've developed the squads.
I think also, just to elaborate on what Chiquita is saying, is that although we are aligning ourselves at times with the information and the framework from Tamarack Institute, we are very much looking at how does this actually work in Aotearoa? What is the way, and I suppose partly that's also the link with whānau. It's indigenising the opportunity to look at collective impact in Aotearoa, in the context of Aotearoa. So it's been always the opportunity to look at what others have been doing, not to reinvent the wheel, but how do we bring it to the context of Aotearoa? So just as Shadow was saying, this really has been the development of some of the work that we've been, the Alliance partners have been bringing together. So I guess this is around high leverage activities, which previously probably would have been described as mutually reinforcing activities. So you can see that there are actually 9 squads, and what we've done is really bring together those alliance partners and or others who aren't necessarily wanting to be at the table all the time, but do have something to contribute in a particular area. And you can see that in the Kai sustainability. So the Food Network, they're not a part of the Aura Connect table, but they want to obviously help in terms of the leadership that they can bring to the kind of sustainability. I think we thought we'd talk about a couple of the squads specifically.
Yeah, we were keen to really show you the whānau lead ones. There's some real richness in each one of these squads, but given the time tonight, we were going to talk more about the whānau lead components. But another part that really underpins the approach is having this double diamond. And we've used this in all the projects that we're actually running under the Water Connect umbrella. And it's a very, very busy slide. And what it's really saying is that it's not about going out and consulting with community once and saying, tick, I've done that, and let's go off and do it. So it's bringing groups together, getting some information, taking it back to groups, checking it in again, pivoting it in language, and doing a whole lot of real co-design, co-create, co-produce one voice, as I often say. But Mashiro will talk very eloquently to kind of how the whole cycle works.
So I have to say, like it's quite an unusual thing, right, to present via webinar, because you're actually just talking, it seems like you're talking to each other in a screen and you can't really see your audience. So it's an unusual way to do things. Just to say, as Chiquita said, it's a dynamic process, the use of the double diamond, and you can see as it describes the many intersecting points which allow you then to bring together and describe the journey from the perspective of the people that you are engaging with. So who is better placed to actually find the solution for a challenge that may be being faced by a community, the people who are most affected by it? I think for a long time, with good intention, sometimes we have come up with solutions having not experienced the impact of what the challenge is. So the double diamond allows a process that actually journey maps, that really kind of highlights the truth from the perspective of the people that are being engaged with, and then allows for starting to define part of the solution, still engaging with the people who are most affected by the challenge in their community. Over time, obviously, because Te Tihi is a Māori organisation, and we, we're really focused on our Māori communities. So over time, we're also interested in taking some of the methodology and developing and indigenising the approach. So the pikorua is something that we have been starting to develop in terms of a similar process to the double diamond, but putting it into an Indigenous framework that obviously then can be used more broadly in Aotearoa, given that non-Māori actually are part of Aotearoa. And so Indigenous solutions often lend themselves to being leverages for change and solution-focused opportunities in other communities as well.
So what we've been describing is Water Connect in regards to a collective impact approach around a specific locality of 30,000 people. At the same time, across our rohe, or even before the Water Connect, we did a piece of work around why water, our collective response, and this was to the mental health inquiry. And the reason why we're showing this is because we want to show how doing one piece then inputs to another piece, to another piece, to another piece. We've got quite sophisticated about building on and leveraging off work. So we thought we'd just show you this video clip around the Why Water video.
We begin tonight with the mental health system and the government's response to what has widely been described as a crisis in it, with 600 New Zealanders committing suicide in the past year, the highest number since the figure was first recorded, and pressure on resources across the system, from acute responses to inpatient care to alcohol and drug assessment, counselling and treatment.
I was born by the river in a little tent. just like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been
the budget for engagement with technology because we want to find new ways of reaching out to those who would not normally access a panel like this, so that we do hear the full picture of what is going on in the community, and we expect also, of course, to hear from those who are interacting directly with the system.
Beyond the sky, it's been a long time coming, but I know the change is gonna come.
I don't know if people can actually sing something.
The day when you would get up out of here. So long time friends, we remain the same until you return. One day I will say,
hi,
we're back. It was just really showing you some of the fantastic people that live and work and participate in our communities, and that through collective effort. So this is prior to standing up or to connect, but the relationships are fundamentally the core of being, I'm sure as everybody knows, being successful in your community. Having the opportunity to engage with so many people and find some way, ground for commonality that actually then harnesses and inspires people to work more collectively, and then to adopt a framework such as whānau ora and collective impact. I think Chiquita's just organising, we love videos, as you can see, because it's a way of documenting the story without actually lots of words, and it's really showing the connectedness with whānau. So this is out of the whānau led squad, and as you can see, as Whānau Connect Day was pretty much the community coming and saying, we really want to bring a league tournament together. We're interested in having the community participate in it on the day. So there was about 1,000 people that attended. That's quite a big deal for the southwestern suburbs, and more particularly a particular suburb within that, so Harbury. And it was a very successful day, and it will get repeated as well. So it isn't just about one time, it's about continuing to kind of scaffold all of those activities.
For time, we're not going to show you this video clip, but when the link comes out, hopefully people will be able to access it. This is just a couple more photos. So with the Waiora piece of work, what's happened there is that we've all club funded a role that sits in the Highbury Whānau Centre, Jodie, and Jodie's doing all this amazing work with our 4412 suburbs. This is some of the photos from the different pieces. Just in the report at the Whānau Water Strategic Innovation Development Group, Hui the other day, more commonly known as WASIC, this is just her report, and this is some upcoming Waiora community projects that she's got occurring across the 4412 suburbs. And as Aotearoa said before, often what's happened over the years, I think we get excited, we go out to some community engagement, we do an event, and we think, phew, done that, tick for the year, and then the next year we might do something, but this is about ongoing engagement.
This was about our housing squad. So this also is about, so you see Kāinga Ora are part of the squad, and they obviously have got quite a large rebuild going on in public housing. And obviously everybody is impacted by the shortage, the supply of housing, both for transitional housing, social housing, and also home ownership. And obviously people know about the many challenges that face whānau when looking for the opportunity for the pathway to home ownership, given that home ownership can create quite an intergenerational change. So the video that I'm going to share with you is part of the housing space. It is a piece of work that Tehi has been leading around 2 years, working with whānau to actually create pathways to home ownership. We have a rent to buy pathway. We also have, you've got 10 years pretty much to be able to switch for home ownership, and along those 10 years we will provide opportunity for the equity to be assigned to whānau. So it helps them to build that equity in the house, and also work with them along their journey.
If you'd asked us, could we imagine what we see today from the very first day, the answer would have been no, for sure, yeah. There's been many, stops and starts out of all of our control along the way, so it's just amazing to be at this point.
I think I'm still finding it a bit hard to believe.
The journey is it's indescribable. It's my first whare, and before this opportunity came up, I never thought I'd own my own whare. It's been a process of about 2 years now. It's been a good journey. So we started, as a group of about 30 of us originally, and then originally it ended up as the 5 for the whare. It's been a good journey of learning in that. We've done a lot of learning. We did the work around budgeting and money, and just working on our different goals towards home ownership. When I first heard about this, I spoke with my navigator, Shay, about it. And she was like, oh, one day you're going to own your home. I pretty much laughed at her. And, well, here we are. So the rest is history. It's given me something to work towards and something for my whānau for their future.
It's always been a goal of mine. Yeah, but as time went by, it was sort of like starting to be, but I think I'm never giving up hope. I was still going to keep trying.
I definitely thought it was out of my reach, so it really is just taking small goals and achieving them, whether it be small savings, paying off debt, and then slowly achieving them, and then just working one step at a time towards the larger goal, which we're getting to now, and we'll still be working on for the next possibly 5, 10 years.
It's a privilege and a huge benefit to have this service walking alongside you, and a great stepping stone for us to change the direction for our tamariki and our generations to come.
can't really wait to just get in there and move on from our old house into a nice new house.
It shows my whānau that whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve it. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past or whatever you're going through. If you feel that you want something that bad,
Believe in yourself. That's where it starts. It starts in your mind. Yeah. And that has been the major difference, game changer that this whānau navigator service has provided for us.
It's somewhere that we can always call home.
it was like a dream come true.
Yeah, just give it a go and go for it. Give it your best shot, and yeah.
The work with the whānau has been a real privilege. We've pretty much over the last 2 years been working with whānau to design an urban papakainga. So it's not the same as if you are living on your own whenua, but over time those 5 whānau have developed a tikanga agreement. They have a shared space inside of the boundaries of where their properties are. They will design and decide how that will be used. And in the tikanga agreement, they have developed how will they live alongside of each other as a part of a smaller community inside of a larger community, which is the 4412.
Last slide. Key to our success. So you can see all the words on the screen. I'm not going to read them out. The last one is the important one. Community engagement, the one above that's the other important one. Like, they're all important, but
They're not listed in priority.
Not listed in priority. That's the better way of saying that. So we will stop sharing our screen and I'll hand over to Aotearoa and Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. The formula, it's more of an approach that needs to be adapted, as you guys have said, in terms of New Zealand, and iwi partnership being and leadership at the core of that. So yeah, hopefully it just enables things to move quicker, but I agree wholeheartedly, it's a long game. Cool. And Gary, I would love for you to reflect and share some of your wisdom as our consumer representative, but also governance group member for the collaborative.
Sure. Kia ora, thanks, Amajit, and thanks, Chiquita and Mataroa. I learned so much from your presentation, and for somebody who struggles with acronyms, I love weaving, and I got a lot out of that, and I just so much about the quality, the improvement, the co-design, which I'm a big fan of. I think for me, when I read about Ora Connect, and I acknowledge Andy, who put a notice in the chat around whanaungatanga, and look, whanaungatanga is absolutely paramount. It will not work unless the connections are made, the engagement and connections with people, learning a bit about each other before you get down to the business, and it's really important, and the connection with whānau ora as well. Rangatiratanga means a lot to me in terms of self-management, because it's something I had to learn, was about my own leadership of my own life, so it's just great to see that sort of embedded in the work that you're doing as well. I quite often, in fact, reading through that, and you alluded to it too, Amajit, about the long journey, and it's about marathons and milestones, and you certainly have achieved that, Chiquita, Mataroa, milestones along the way. And as a marathon myself, I know what it's like to run and walk marathons, and I can certainly relate to that from what you've presented too. Just a wee bit of background with me from a consumer role. I've got a number of governance roles that I do with healthcare homes, and also with Te Tumu Waiora, which is a primary mental health collaborative working in New Zealand. a new workforce, including health coaches and health improvement professionals. Part of the Kaiawhina workforce task force, so people working in the health sector which outnumber the registered health professionals, as this crudely termed unregulated workforce, and we're getting rid of that. We are Kaiawhina. So a number of roles that I also coordinate the Health Consumer Advisory Service under a contract with Health Navigator, who in turn contract to the Ministry of Health. So those roles are important, and I've been privileged to be in a number of roles with that consumer perspective, consumer representation, advocacy around that, and I've always valued what I get the chances to do there. I'd also like to acknowledge Merle and Andrew and Claudia for the previous, I think it was called Part 2, because that was an amazing, I wasn't able to watch it live, but I did catch up with it later, and so there's so much that I'm learning from this myself, and so really that's probably, look, from me. Again, happy to answer any questions in the chat if it comes through. So, but thank you again for your presentation, ladies. That was fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Gary. Aotearoa Chick, do you want to add to what Gary provided around, Andy's question around how important do you feel whakawhanaungatanga, building relationships, is in this mahi? Did you want to add to that?
It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. You can't actually move without the process of whakawhanaungatanga. I saw that Whai Merle is making reference in the chat about seeing people smile actually is part of the process of is whakawhanaungatanga successful. So it's inspiring to work in community and to be of service to people. So I think it's very rewarding, not only personally, but also in terms of the wider opportunities to connect and create those long-term relationships for greater benefit.
It is awesome. We have another question here from Briley. In regards to the squads aspect of consulting with community, is it both of you who are approaching the community yourselves personally most times? Also, how did this initiative start? Was it a passionate conversation together that triggered you both to really take action? P.S. So it's inspiring Nami here. So, who would like to address that?
I'll do a little part, which is how did the initiative start. So it was part of our approach around developing integrated family healthcare centres across the Rohe and providing different opportunity for people. And as I said, when we talked to the Western Southern Suburbs community, they went keen on that bricks and mortar type approach. So we've been doing work like this in many places. We're really blessed across our network. We have 28 general practice providers. Some are fantastic and small, some are amazing and boutique, about 5,000, and some are around the 20,000. They all add real richness to the fabric of primary healthcare in our district. But what we discovered in the Western Southern suburbs was a community that just wanted something really, really different and didn't want that really flash building. And the squads is definitely not Aotearoa and I, that's the network itself. Every squad is led by somebody different. I think Aotearoa leads a couple of them, Tihi leads a couple, and there's many other people leading parts. But it comes out of the Aotearoa Connect Alliance table, and we meet monthly. And every time I go to the hui, there's always new people. So it's getting that real momentum behind it. And there's, of course, there's things like a charter, and I suppose there's terms of reference and all that, but it's
no terms of reference.
Not caught up on
no terms of reference.
Yeah.
Too much process. It creates too much bureaucracy. So you have to be really agile. Some of those kind of old constructs are not necessarily what we want to take forward. I think, that's my view, and that's definitely, I find that that's part of the view of Māori community. Too much bureaucracy, too many layers, and too many layers that then block progress or opportunity to move forward. So yeah, I tossed out a few of those things. Get rid of those. Yeah.
I often say it's ready, fire, and then aim. We've been caught up in a world of ready, aim, and weeks and weeks, months, years later, we might fire off something.
So I see your kōrero, Claudia. Thank you, ngā mihi, kia koe. Yeah, well, I guess the whānau that you saw in the tuara ake, I don't really want to assign labels to people. I've got a bit of an aversion to labels myself. And so I think those whānau were on a journey themselves around reconnecting with their whakapapa, reconnecting. There are a lot of urban Māori who live in Palmerston North. I'm an urban Māori. I haven't lived on my tūranga waiwai. I've always lived in urban settings, and it's been a journey over my lifetime, like it has been for a lot of Māori because of the impacts of colonisation. So I think it's a bigger context, but it's like we have a lot of relationships with kaumātua who will help to actually facilitate reconnecting with people's whānau hapu and iwi. But there's also a journey of healing and reconnecting that's required, and I think some of those things are starting to have more traction and more profile in our Māori communities. We've got some things as Māori, I think, that we focus on in our own communities, and then we join together with others to be able to achieve some of those things. I'm happy to talk to you at other times, Claudia, to have more kōrero around, your experiences and obviously some of the things that we do here. But I guess it's a little bit like that kōrero about locality. There will be differences. But we have more in common than what we don't.
Oh, thank you. And Judy, apologies. You're right. The questions these would be live for everybody to see, but something in our settings shifted, and it means that the person presenting the question can only see their own. So apologies for that. Normally it's far more open. In fact, I think we are shifting our approach in terms of having done the meeting and much greater participation in the first two, part 1 and part 2. Probably we'll go back to that because, as you said, Aotearoa, in a webinar sense, it's harder to get that connection. So we will take the learnings from that and do things a little differently. And we're coming up to 2 minutes to 7. The last thing I wanted to ask, I know that Chiquita and Aotearoa talked about the success factors, but if you had to, in a nutshell, share 3 top learnings, what would that be in terms of your journey? And the journey obviously will be ongoing into the future, it doesn't stop. But if there were top 3 learnings, what would those be?
That you know very little. Yeah, you hardly know anything really. And that, I just think it's that thing about relationships, whakawhanaungatanga, and being open and willing to engage with both your heart and your mind. I guess that's that. Yeah, they're lessons, they're wisdoms that I guess you get to grow collectively. Yeah, don't make assumptions, and don't label, and stop seeing everybody from a deficit point of view.
That whole strength-based, absolutely.
That's more than 3, sorry.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's all good. We got more value for money. Now, there's a final question there for, do you have volunteers and then can visit rest homes? It must be obviously referring to the detail of your initiative.
Sorry, what was that? Rest homes.
Do you have volunteers that can visit rest homes?
This time we haven't had a focus on that activity. It's kind of interesting. There's not in that postcode. There's not very many rest homes. So it hasn't been something that the community has brought forward as being of importance or being central. They really, I think, for people who maybe have been involved with community development before, you can kind of see the essence of that and the things that we've been sharing. But there are a lot of volunteers, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Before we move into closing karakia, were there any final words of wisdom from the three of you? I know that Judy's asking you, Matara, where you get your wisdom from. So, you know, maybe in your any closing comments, you can share something around that.
From others, luckily.
From others. Nice. Oh.
Yeah, those here and those gone.
Oh. And anything, Gary, that you wish to share before we move into closing karakia?
I think I just love what Claudia said in her presentation about, I may not remember what you said, but I will remember how you made me feel. And for a patient, I'll say a patient consumer with a health professional, whatever way that is, it's how you feel is most important, that you it means so much more than the words that are spoken. And if the words are spoken in such a way that makes you feel good, you're more than likely to understand and remember what they said as well. So I'll put it to you, Claudia. Yeah.
Oh, kia ora, Gary. Chiquita?
I think we've got a long way to go to really listen to people, whānau and community voice. I still think generally we pay a lot of lip service to it. We remain very provider-centric in most of our thinking for those that work sort of in the provider land. I often reflect that I have this amazing privilege to lead an organisation that's becoming more and more connected with its community. And if you told me I'd be tossing a coin for the beginning Pulse game, or I'd be out down at the Lido swimming pool, the sausage sizzles, and I'd be at the league down at the Bill Brown Park, and we'd be doing this and doing that. And I think, you know, we have to really think about how do we engage with communities to have authentic conversations and to really listen and to really respond and stop always just thinking about the clinical aspects of people in their lives, because people are people and people are connected to whānau, connected to communities. So I'm really excited about the health reforms. I'm looking forward to hoping that the framework for localities will be organic enough that it is really truly driven by communities, because the worst thing we'll do is to develop a framework saying we'll put in this square and do this and do that. So the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years is really exciting ahead of us. But I just want to shout out to you as the healthcare home. I know how many hours, Queen, yes, Queen, and the rest of your team, Jess and everyone, because you've pulled the series and everything together. I'm really respect your passion and your real drive, and I know that you've got a particular interest around schools and councils and how we work with communities. So well done for you for putting the series of 3 together. Kia ora.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, our conversation, our korero will continue. Yeah, thank you. I'll share my screen and we'll jump into karakia. Let me just. Aotearoa, are you happy to close us?
Sure. Yeah. Ngā mihi ki a koutou, he karakia, he inoi tātou. Kia horo te marino, kia whakapapa paunamu te moana. Kia tere te kairohi I mua I tō huarahi. May peace be widespread, may the sea glisten like greenstone, and may the shimmer of light dance across your path.